A deadly blast rocked the al-Ahli hospital in Gaza. We still don't know for sure who is responsible for this harrowing attack, but we do know who is at the receiving end. Innocent lives. Today, some more details have emerged. Here's what is new. The Israel Defense Forces released a video. Now, we at WION could not independently verify it, but have a look. In the video, you can see what appears to be a rocket over Gaza. The airborne weapon bursts into flames mid-air. Moments later, an explosion is seen at the hospital. The IDF claims a rocket was actually aimed at Israel, but it misfired and landed in Gaza. From what we know, the impact on the hospital occurred at 6:59 p.m. local time. A massive orange plume was seen in the dark horizon. It soon engulfed the building. Between 7 and 7:20 p.m., the first local reports of the blast started to come in. What's also new is what was happening on Telegram. Telegram channels of Hamas's armed wing, al-Qassam brigades, were buzzing through the day of the hospital bombing. Hamas had been posting updates of attempted strikes into Israel. Updates at 7 p.m. local time described bombardment by rockets on Ashdod. 3 minutes later, another post on Telegram described an attack on Tel Aviv. A little after 8 p.m., Hamas gave another update. It described how al-Qassam brigades had targeted the northern Israeli city of Haifa with an R-160 missile. Now, this was followed immediately by a press statement. The statement blamed Israel for the blast at the hospital. Another fresh detail of the blast that has come up is this crater. It is believed to be the impact site. Yesterday on Gravitas, we showed you the video evidence released by the IDF claiming it was not responsible for the blast. The video compared the bombed hospital with some other site hit by Israeli rockets. The Israeli military tried to highlight the difference between the two. It claimed that their weapons, especially their rockets, are high impact and that they usually create craters at the site they hit. The military said that there were no visible craters at the hospital. But now, as per the new findings, it turns out there was in fact a crater at the site. I just showed you the visuals of that crater. However, experts say that the crater is fairly shallow, that the precision-guided weapon system used by Israel in fact would have created a much deeper crater. Experts and analysts also say the damage endured by the hospital building is also not consistent with Israeli rockets, and the hole on the ground seems to have occurred from kinetic energy, potentially due to a rocket failure. So yet again, we have no answers. These are the facts that are available to us as of now. The question still stands: who bombed the al-Ahli hospital in Gaza? In fact, this wasn't the first time the hospital was attacked. It had also been targeted last week. At that time, it sustained damage to a few floors and departments. Hospital administrators reportedly warned people about the Israeli order to evacuate the area. About 5,000 people were said to have left after the first warning. But Israel's blanket evacuation order had effectively turned the whole city into a target. So many returned to the hospital when airstrikes pummeled the neighborhood. They hoped the compound of a medical facility at least would be a safe haven. Where else could they go? Under international humanitarian law, those at war must not target medical facilities or staff. But then again, this war knows no laws, and it isn't sparing anyone. And as Israel prepares for a ground invasion of Gaza, the Israeli military is looking closely at the Gaza metro. What's that? It's a mysterious subterranean tunnel, a tunnel network which is used by Hamas. Israel fears that Hamas could use this tunnel to escape or to delay Israel's operations. How? Let's find out. To start with, what exactly is this tunnel network? It's a vast underground city of sorts with dozens of access points across Gaza. Hamas uses these tunnels as weapons cache, bunkers, command centers, and as a concealed transportation artery for weapons. In 2021, Hamas claimed to have extended this tunnel network to 500 kilometers or 311 miles. Reports say some of these tunnels led directly from Gaza to Israeli communities near the border. This enables Hamas fighters to infiltrate, kidnap, or attack Israeli citizens. In fact, residents of southern Israel are said to live in constant fear, knowing that a terrorist could emerge from a tunnel near their house anytime. Next question. Where has Hamas built these tunnels? Reports say mostly in densely populated areas. The access points of these tunnels are hidden between schools, mosques, hospitals, and civilian buildings. Israel says Hamas has deliberately embedded these tunnels inside civilian neighborhoods to take advantage of the IDF's reluctance to strike civilian areas. Next question. How did Hamas afford to build these tunnels? By keeping Gaza poor. You see, while new houses and other civilian structures remain unbuilt in the Gaza Strip, Hamas has invested millions of dollars and other resources in building this tunnel network. Plus, it also exploits the aid and construction material that flows through Israel. Look at these reports. In the past decade, Israel has consistently transferred construction materials into Gaza, which is intended for civilian projects. But these materials were co-opted by Hamas for tunnel construction. Reports also say that since January 2014, 4,680 trucks carrying 181,000 tons of gravel, iron, cement, wood, and other supplies have passed through Israel into Gaza. Now, Hamas could have done a lot with these supplies. It could have built houses, hospitals, schools, libraries. It could have built crucial infrastructure to improve the quality of life for the Gazans. Instead, it chose to expand its own underground city. And we're hardly surprised. In the last 4 months, there have been 3 incidents of Hamas squads infiltrating Israel through these very tunnels. The latest incident took place on July 28th. This is when Hamas infiltrated Israel through a tunnel near Nahal Oz. Their goal was apparently to attack an Israeli community near the border. IDF soldiers thwarted the attack. Then, on July 17th, heavily armed fighters climbed out of a tunnel near the Israeli community of Sufa, a few kilometers from the Gaza border. 4 days later, Hamas fighters wearing full IDF uniforms infiltrated Israel through a different tunnel. Look at this map now. It has been released by the IDF. It has mapped out the potential locations of these tunnels. Most of them are situated at the northern end of the Gaza Strip. There's another smaller network at the Gaza Strip's southern tip. Reports say the IDF is carefully mapping and examining these tunnels. In fact, this is what an IDF spokesperson had to say about the tunnels. Allow me to quote. Think of the Gaza Strip as one layer for civilians and then another layer for Hamas. We are trying to get to that second layer that Hamas has built. These are not bunkers for Gazan civilians. It's only for Hamas so that they can continue to fire rockets at Israel, to plan operations and to launch terrorists into Israel. Exact words spoken. So what does Israel plan to do with these tunnels? Well, in the past, Israel has destroyed more than 100 kilometers of these tunnels in airstrikes. Hamas said that this only accounted for 5% of the network size. What will Israel do this time around? Well, if we go by the sheer scale of its operations, it is by all means planning to demolish this tunnel network. This may sound alarmist, but the conflict in Israel could soon turn into a multi-front war. This is something that we've said on Gravitas repeatedly. Curtsy, the Hezbollah, a Lebanon-based Shia Islamist group which is backed by the Iranian regime. It seems to have become the most pressing threat to Israel after Hamas. Just look at some recent developments. They're concerning, to say the least. 24 hours back, Hezbollah fired anti-tank missiles at Israel. The target was an Israeli military outpost. The attack wounded at least 4 soldiers. Israel retaliated. Hezbollah did not stop. In fact, later in the day, it launched several more missiles that targeted the Israeli army posts along the border. It has been 24 hours and the exchange of fire has not stopped. Smoke and flames are rising atop the hills near the border as Israel strengthens its military presence in the area. These attacks are being complemented by infiltrations. The footage on your screen is from Tuesday. It shows Israeli military neutralizing 4 people who tried to cross its border fence from Lebanon. But who were these people? Israel says they belong to the Hezbollah. Look at this video. They show Israeli forces striking Hezbollah targets near the border. Since this strike, Israel and Hezbollah have constantly traded fire. These developments have raised the specter of a new front in this war. Israel's own defense forces are blaming Iran for this. They say the Iranian regime wants to escalate the crisis, the situation on ground. And if it does so, Israel says it is ready to fight on 2 fronts. Listen to this.
From our understanding, it is Iran that is interested in escalating the situation in order to challenge Israel, challenge the IDF and our activities in the south. And that is why they are using the Hezbollah terrorist organization to do so. I would warn Hezbollah to look very carefully. I would also warn the leaders of Lebanon to look very carefully how we are dismantling Hamas in the Gaza Strip, leader by leader, terrorist by terrorist, and indeed infrastructure by infrastructure. We will exert a serious price if they continue to threaten and attack Israel. Nevertheless, we are prepared to fight, if needs be, on 2 fronts. We have the ability to do so.
Now, this warning may just be preemptive, but Arab nations are taking it seriously. You see, on Wednesday, the Saudi embassy in Lebanon issued a statement. It called upon all Saudi nationals to leave Lebanon immediately. Allow me to quote the exact statement. The embassy of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the Republic of Lebanon is closely following the developments of the current events in the southern Lebanon region, calling on all citizens to adhere to the travel ban and to leave Lebanese territory immediately for those who are currently in Lebanon. So what made Saudi Arabia say this? Does it have any kind of clue about Hezbollah's intentions, its plan? Is the war in Israel really going to expand? At this point, your guess is as good as mine. That said, back in Lebanon, Hamas officials certainly seem to be up to something. They held a press conference last evening in which they categorically said that they have more tricks up their sleeve, that their tactics so far are just a glimpse of what they possess. Listen in.
If this battle continues, I can tell you that all scenarios are open, and what we have up our sleeves in our resistance is still not over. And what we have presented is just a part of what we possess. And we will, God willing, remain determined to remind people that this is a form of jihad or martyrdom. Some of us may be martyred, but our cause will win and our resistance will succeed.
Hamas is not alone in asserting this. Similar warnings are flowing in from Iran as well. Take the case of Iran's foreign minister. He has issued a statement saying that the possibility of opening new fronts against Israel is inevitable.
In case of the resumption of the war crimes of the child-killing regime of the Israelis against the non-military residents of Gaza, anything is possible. If the United Nations and political activists don't use these limited opportunities in the coming hours, the possibility of opening new fronts against the Zionist regime is inevitable.
So from the Hezbollah to Hamas to Iran, they're all saying the same thing. A new front is inevitable. And if it does open, how powerful is the group that Israel will be up against? How capable is the Hezbollah of changing the course of this war? To understand this, we'll have to understand the group itself. Hezbollah, or the Party of God, is one of the most powerful Islamist movements in West Asia. It has a powerful military wing, but also runs a political party that has considerable influence. It runs TV stations and an extensive network of businesses. These businesses bring in millions of dollars for the group every year. If we speak of numbers, Hezbollah has a force of 20,000 fighters. Most of them are highly trained and well armed. Reports say that these numbers could be rapidly expanded by calling up to 30,000 part-timers. They have the capability to augment the existing force. But these numbers flail in comparison to Israel's military and its capabilities. Plus, some analysts say that Hezbollah has too much to risk in an all-out conflict, given its political and commercial interests. So if it does get involved, it will probably be for a short and limited period. If not, Israel's allies in the Western world will also not remain quiet.